Today's presentation is brought to you by TransTec Freudenberg-NOK, the world's largest producer of OE sealing products.
When I use a TransTec kit to rebuild our transmissions, they're not just rebuilt, those transmissions are fixed, period.
Hi, my name is Bill Brayton, Senior Research Technician at ATRA. Today we're going to be looking at the D clutch drum and how to change the piston, the molded piston inside. This is the, as I said, the D drum out of an 845 RE. That's a Chrysler product. Comes in also is the D drum for the 8HP45, 70, and 90 series. Those come in the higher horsepower motors, but this one is for the 3.7 V6 found in the Jeep and the Charger Challenger series. And as you can see, the drum has a molded piston in it. And this piston is riveted into as part of the drum. Well, in California and in a lot of states, you have to change, as part of your rebuild, you have to change the molded pistons or any of the piston seals while you're doing a rebuild. And as you can see, without a special tool, that's going to be real difficult. Well, TransTec just came out with a tool. It's a real slick tool set here. And it comes with the instructions here. Comes with a new molded piston and gasket. All right, and some screws that we're going to be using to hold in the new piston. And a couple of different drill bits. And a tap here for the new screws. And then the drill fixture. And a couple other mounting tools and a rivet drill here and an alignment tool. So we're going to unpack this stuff and get it set up on the drum, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We've got our tools cut out of the packaging, so we're ready to install the drill fixture into the drum so we can start getting the D drum rivets out. The first thing we have to do is pull out this one of the piston seals, like that. Okay, so we got that. We're just gonna discard that because we're no longer gonna use that. Now see, that left a nice little hole right there where the seal goes, so we're going to use that. Part of the tool is using the alignment pin through the fixture, and the other end of it goes into the hole where the seal just was. So let's get our clamp down tool ready to go here. This is going to hold it all in place. And the drill guide, and the alignment dowel pushes right down in there. See, that fits and keeps everything all steady. Put our alignment tool back together here. You know, it helps to, you can see I'm pulling up on the tool here to hold it in place. So, and Give it a twist. There. Now it's all set up in the drum. The stud's in there. It's all lined up. If you could see down in there, these holes are all lined up over the rivets that we're going to drill out. Okay, so we've got our drill set up here, and we're going to use our waxy type of substance here to use as a cutting lubricant. And here we go. Now the whole idea is that once this bottoms out against the guide, that means we're good to go. So all right, looks like we're about there. So we're going to go ahead and we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 more rivets to do, and we'll be back in just a minute. All right, so we're back, and this is what it looks like after we have drilled out all 4 of these. Now, I want to make sure that, you know, we read in the instructions that this flange is supposed to meet. You can see where the flange has hit the drill guide. That is, according to the instructions, as far down as it needs to go. So now we're on to the next step, which is going to be turning this thing over and driving out the planet pinion shafts. So we'll take this, get this little piece out of here, and we can take off. Now see, this is that's what it looks like after the rivets have been drilled out. You could see got a piece of rivet right there. That's a good sign. Another piece right there. That's a good sign as well. So we know that when we flip this thing over, this thing's going to pop apart. So we'll just set that aside, and set this out of the way, and well, let's have at it here. Let's see where this goes. How about that? Sounds like it's all the way down on the bench. Now you could see right away that the planet washers are starting to fly about, so we want to be real careful with that. Don't we lose any parts here. And I'm not, as you can see, I'm not hitting this real hard. So everything seems to be coming apart real nice and easy. Now we're going to take these extra washers and see if we can get them to come flying out here. All right, so we could set those right there. And how about that? Pull that out. And we could see we've got another washer here that's coming out. We could see our old piston has been driven out by the pinion shafts here, and you can see where the remnants of the rivets are right here. So let's continue getting the washers out of there. So that's all 4 of them, and we'll take the planet out of there one at a time. All right. For the first one. Now, you could see the planet has a caged bearing in there. And the flat side goes towards the drum. You see that step right in there? Can you get in on that real good? Okay. So the step side, flat side faces the drum. So that's real important when we're going back together again. So we can just set these aside, and there's just a bottom and top thrust washer to the planet. Same thing, step towards the back, the flat side goes toward the drum. And we'll just keep doing that until we get them all out. Okay, so we have the housing all nice and cleaned up right here. We've cleaned out any of the filings that have gathered into our last drilling procedures. And so now we're moving on to the next step. And the next step involves drilling holes in the pistons. You could see the marks we made on the piston here. That's where the holes are going to get drilled. And we're also going to drill through the housing itself so that when we're done with this operation, we're going to have some nice threaded holes here. We've got some bolts that you're going to see here in a minute that are going to hold the piston into the drum. So we're going to remove our seal here and set that aside. Going to lay this down on here, and using our alignment pin, oops, let's get our tool set up here first. So our alignment pin goes through the tool, through the piston, and then seats into the housing. Then we're going to put our clamping tool back on. To hold this all in place. Give it a little turn with the wrench. There. So now it's all one nice, neat setup here. So now we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 holes to drill. So let's do that. Let's do that, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we've got all 4 of our holes drilled. You can see there's a lot of debris here. So we're gonna go ahead and take our tool off and get this mess cleaned up. But we can just really just toss these over to the side because there's more drilling to be done. So you can see new holes over here on the sides where the other rivets used to be. And that's where the screws are going to end up living. But first thing we want to do here is clean up the mess, get all these shavings out here, make sure this drum's all nice and clean. And really critical next step here is that we want to go in. Not sure if you can get in there and see this, but there is the whole drilling procedure has left a lot of burrs and some extra material here. So we're going to take a flat file and go around each one of these holes and deburr these holes in preparation for the next step. So we'll be right back. Okay, now we've gone through with our flat file and deburred each one of those holes that we've just drilled. Now we're going to use the tap. So now we're going to tap out. We're going to use this tap threads into each one of these holes that we've just used. Now I'm going to use a little bit of Just a drop or two of cutting oil in each one of those holes. I'm going to tap each of these 8 holes and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. We have tapped all 8 holes, so that part's all done. The drum's all cleaned up. One thing you want to do after you're done tapping these holes is to deburr the holes. You can see the holes down in here all the way around with a flat file, because this is where the washer is going to live, and we want to make sure that's a nice flat clean area. So now our drum is ready to be assembled. But first we have one little step here. We're going to use the large drill bit that's supplied with the kit. This is a 13/64 drill bit, and we're going to drill out the smaller holes in the piston itself. This will allow the screws to go through that. So we're just going to get this going. I'm using a wood block here to back it up. It's a sharp drill bit, so and that's what the finished hole looks like. And we're going to go to drill out the other 7 holes and clean up the piston, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we have our piston all deburred, and we're ready to continue the assembling the drum here. But for now, we're going to set this aside. I did fail earlier on to mention that this bearing lives down inside the planet. Now that's come up during the cleaning process. You could see where that lives down in there, and you got to put that in first before we put in the gears, because putting the gears in is the next step. So here we have our 2 washers, our gear, and our bearings. So we're ready to, that's all nice and clean and ready to go back together. So one washer on the top, one on the bottom, and as per when we were taking it apart, the flat side goes towards the drum, the shouldered side goes towards the output shaft. We're going to slide that in there as an assembly. So we got that, and we're going to line this up as we go along here, because it stands to reason that if we had to knock this out with a hammer and a punch, we're going to have to knock it back together. So we're going to see how that goes. And also, you can see the flat side on this pinion shaft. That's going to face the snap ring. You can see stuff's falling apart here, but there's a snap ring down in there. Can we get that okay? All right. So there's a snap ring, and that flat will go against, it will go where the snap ring is. So we're gonna check that out when we put that together. Okay, so we've got some assembly lube now, because we could see that. So we're gonna put a little bit of assembly lube here. You can see that I banged this through here. Okay, so now it's gonna, with any luck at all, the washer will stay in its intended location while we tap the bearing, tap the shaft. All right, so we've got that going. We're not quite through yet. So we still need to get that bottom washer in here. We're going to put some gel in here, and we can watch the location from this side. Now that should stay in the proper location. There we see the flat spot came right with the snap ring, and everything's turning nice and smooth. And we could see right here that it's just down flush. So the key points in driving this back in were to use the assembly lube on the washers, making sure the pin is lined up, the pinion shaft is lined up with the snap ring. And lastly, you can see down in here in the bearing, we secured that with some assembly lube as well. So those are the important things to remember when you're driving in these pinion shafts. So we're going to install the other three pinion shafts and the washers, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and we've got all four pinion shafts installed, and there's a couple of things that you want to know about when putting this together. Is use a healthy amount of assembly lube on the washers. Keeps the washers from sliding around. That's real important. When you're first driving the shaft through this side from left to right, you can have it protrude just enough to where the washer stays on the shaft itself, and then you can put the gear and the bearing in, and then start driving it through till it's about halfway, and you will be able to see that you're at that point in time that your the flat is lined up with the washer. Then once you get it further through, you install the next washer, and then continuing to drive it on through till they're all the way flush. You know, I talked about how the flat side goes towards the drum. Well, it only goes in one way because the step side gives relief for the bearing down below. So if you have it the other way around, it won't go together at all. So now we're ready for the piston, and we've got all our holes drilled where they need to be. The gasket comes in the kit, comes in the rebuild kit, and it comes with the tool. And so what we're going to do is take this seal and put it into the piston here. There you can see it's coming out another side here, and this does a couple of things. I mean, you install the seal, but now we have a nice little holds the gasket in place situation right there. So this seal mates up with the feed hole in the drum. So we're going to install that right in there. Now it's pretty secure when it's down in there because of the rivets that are, you see it won't slide around a whole heck of a lot. So now we're ready for our number 15 Torx screws. These are really tiny screws that have, they already have some blue Loctite on them. So what we're going to do, we've got our number 15 Torx bit, and a little 3/8 handle. I know you won't be able to see that, but okay, so you can see I've got one in right here, and we're going to go ahead and put the rest of the 7 in and run them down by hand, and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so we're back and we've got our piston installed. We've got the 8 bolts that had the Loctite on the threads. I was pretty surprised they all tightened down by hand with the 3-inch extension. And the last bit of business here with this installation is we're going to torque these bolts to 30 inch-pounds. Not a lot. Okay, so we got them properly torqued down and bolted into place, so everything's back together again, and that completes our installation of the D-clutch piston.
They've been reliable, they've been dependable over the years. If there is a problem, it comes back. If we look at it, typically it's not because of a seal problem or anything like that. They're as close to OEMs that we've seen. So it's a good fit, good product.
When I was being taught to rebuild automatic transmissions years ago, we were not allowed to use any other kits other than a TransTec kit.
Just in their research and development and the testing they do on the different lip seals and the type of material that they use is far better than other brands.
There really is no comparison. Instruction inserts on the bench, properly cut and fitting seals. When it comes time to assemble the transmission, every gasket and seal is in that kit and they fit properly, and that is profitable.
But we've been using them since I started in the business, and we have no problems.
I use TransTec kits because we need our transmissions to work properly for thousands of miles long after the warranties run out.
Since Freudenberg come on board with Corteco, it's been like day and night, because all of a sudden we had components that we could trust right from the start. If there was a problem, you could call and you could talk to someone and they would take care of the problem for you.